Let's bring in Ben. Ben's from Kansas, and Ben is asking, science doesn't explain spirituality. Could there be room for God there? Ben, can you hear us?
Hey, yeah, I can hear you.
Awesome.
How are you guys doing?
Can you... Doing well, thanks for asking. Can you kind of flesh out your introduction? Like, what do you think is lacking that we would want to leave room for God in?
Well, I guess I'll just give you a little bit of background and then I'll ask the question, if that's okay.
Yeah, sure. Make it. Yeah, I mean,
I was
if it helps make your argument that for spirituality and leaving room for God, sure. Go ahead.
So I was raised in a fundamentalist Baptist household, where people didn't question their faith, and they always wondered. I always wondered why people judged other people's beliefs, but didn't question their own. And I've seen quite a bit of the Atheist Experience, and at first I was, resistant to what you. Your arguments have helped me think more critically and work through some pretty difficult questions. And right now I'm kind of on the fence between atheism and theism. It's like I want to believe in God, but I haven't really found convincing evidence. And so for me, just recently, a question that's kind of popped up is particle wave duality. It shows that reality is kind of stranger than what we think. And it makes me wonder if there's a deeper layer to existence that we don't yet grasp. And I'm not saying that that's evidence of God, but it kind of keeps me open to the idea that there could be something beyond what we currently understand.
Well, how is that spirituality? I mean, yeah, quantum mechanics kind of screws everything up for a lot of things, especially for any of the cosmological arguments for God. I think it pretty much closes the book and says those are done because we know there's just too much randomness there. But does that mean that there's potential for God to be there? I guess the question is which God? If it's the God of the Bible, no, because the triomni God of the Bible, the one who's omnipresent, omnipotent, and omnibenevolent, can't logically exist if there's evil in the world. He could only exist if there is no evil in the world. So that kind of God can't possibly exist. If you're talking about like a elemental God that has control over storms or whatever, those gods clearly don't exist. So when you say that there's room for God, what kind of God is there? Certainly not the God of the Bible in any stretch of the imagination, right? Because he can't possibly exist because nothing about him fits with reality. Even if you get rid of the triomni properties, which are relatively recent to Christianity, and I say relatively recent, I think it's 4th, 5th century. Justin will correct me on that if I'm completely off, I'm sure. So it's just problematic. So when you say there's room for God, I think you got to define that God just to know if there's room for him. And how does he interact with the universe and what did he do?
That's a fair point. I guess I mean God more as like ultimate reality or the ground of being, like not necessarily a specific deity.
What do you mean by grounded reality?
Kind of think of it like,
yeah, that was my first question is what do you mean by grounded reality? Yeah.
Well, it's just that there's so much we don't understand about it.
Sure.
I guess reality.
But why would we?
It seems like the deeper we go, the fuzzier it gets.
Well, in terms of reality, go ahead, Jim.
I was going to say, in terms of the fuzzier it gets, I mean, we kind of know a lot about quantum mechanics. The last thing we didn't know was the Higgs boson particle, and that came out exactly as the math predicted.
From CERN.
Yeah, and that's kind of what they're doing now is just going back and proving the math, so to speak. Well, not so to speak. That's what they're doing, and there hasn't been anything super new or truly groundbreaking. They have found some things that have shaken up particular areas of quantum mechanics. But to say we don't know, we know quite a bit, at least according to our math. So when you say we don't know enough, I mean, yeah, that's probably true. And there's always going to be more to learn. more than likely. So yeah, but where what does that have to do with the grounded reality or God?
I mean, well, I guess I'm not trying to claim that it proves God. I just think it shows how surprising reality can be, and I wonder how I can appreciate that mystery without turning it into dogma, so to speak.
Sure. Can I ask you a question about the? It sounds like you're trying to figure out like why there is reality as opposed to not reality, and so that's why you're looking for like ontological grounding. But like the question I would have is like, I don't see like if you envision some sort of a like deistic God that grounds all this, we still run it afoul of the same problem, which is like we have no explanation for the grounding of a deistic God, right? So as far as I'm concerned, I'm looking at this and I'm thinking it just makes more sense that, you know, whatever exists is going to be a naturalistic phenomenon. It might be true that there's naturalistic phenomenon that we don't know about. We don't fully understand it yet, right? But everything we learn about the universe as we gain more knowledge points towards naturalistic causes. So I'm inclined to believe that a naturalistic cause is going to be the next step, as opposed to something that has a mind and created all things. Because once you add a mind into the equation, there needs to be explanations for why the mind does anything. And that's when it gets really difficult, because like if a mind created all this, it had all that power, created the entire universe, but then created the shit show here on the earth, man, we got a lot of problems. I think Occam's razor would do as well, just to not needlessly multiply entities.
Yeah.
The simplest solution is often the correct one.
Yeah. Well, the simplest solution that explains the most or all of the phenomena is usually the correct one.
Yeah.
You don't need to overly complicate things. But you know, this also is somewhat similar to the something from nothing argument we hear from theists. And the fact is that energy can never be created nor destroyed, not by God, not by anyone or anything. And so energy is not nothing, it is something. But even if, and that's just kind of the scientific basis, and then they've done some experiments to prove that the nothing that philosophers talk about can't possibly exist, right? And that's a problem. If you're going to do this something from nothing, that's a problem for the biblical God as well, because he created the universe out of nothing. Again, energy can't be created or destroyed, and nothing can't possibly exist. So, according to our best science that we have so far, but also, if we assume the philosophical nothing, that would also mean that there are no rules against that nothing spontaneously creating something, right? Because that rule wouldn't exist.
That's an interesting
thought. Richard Carrier's got a really, really good long argument that I don't really want to necessarily get into. I've got it here in my notes somewhere if we really want to. But he makes a really, really compelling argument that if absolute nothing really existed, then something would come out of it, just because that's more likely than anything else. And he gets into the math and makes a really good philosophical argument against it. But I don't buy the something from nothing at all. That argument just doesn't work for me. It doesn't work for me from a scientific point of view, and it doesn't work for me from a philosophical point of view either. It's just a really bad argument.
I know, and it's honestly kind of hard to explain, because I'm just like on the fence about a lot of stuff. I guess if I had to just summarize it, like, would you consider it to be reasonable for people to feel spiritual inspiration or not from the strangeness of reality? And if not, like, could you give some examples of some stuff that I could read to help me with that?
I think it's okay to feel like a little bit of awe and wonder at the universe, because it's pretty cool. Like, the universe is really cool.
Yeah.
And I thought about this a long time. When we look at certain features, like we see a really big mountain range, we're kind of full of awe and wonder. But I remember the first time I saw a really large expansion bridge, I was like, I had a very similar feeling of awe and wonder, but I'm hey, human beings built
or the
this.
Grand Canyon,
like, this is
in person.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
So my suggestion
it's
is
so
like
crazy. I saw a little helicopter flying in there, and it looked just absolutely minuscule. You know, the scale of it is just like, whoa, so awesome.
or like the Hoover Dam, right? But like the all in wonder is not reserved for naturalistic things like the Grand Canyon and whatnot. It's also for human-made things, and I think that tells us that humans just naturally were kind of impressed by very large structures.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Or just things that you know, I find it interesting too that some of the most beautiful places in the world are also places where foraging for food, if you know, back in the day, would have been easier. Heavily forested areas, finding things in mountains, and you know, civilization grew up on the banks where you could fish. So yeah, I think there's also a bit of evolution in there, but seeing things and being awe-inspired by them has absolutely nothing to do with spirituality. It's just enjoying being human.
Wow. That's pretty cool. I guess it's just dealing with those. And it's funny you even mentioned foraging. I like to do that. I live out in the country, and I've been doing that a lot. It's just, I guess, happy to be alive. You know, I don't.
Right.
Yeah. It's just kind of hard. If we have time for one more question, it's kind of off topic. Is that okay?
Sure.
So because of my journey, you know, I was just wondering how I can maintain a good relationship with my very religious family when our beliefs are so different. And it's like, I don't want to lie about what I believe, but I don't want to turn every visit into a debate or feel like I'm betraying myself by staying quiet. I don't know if these are something that you guys have been through, but any help would be appreciated.
Yeah. My parents don't know that I'm an atheist, or at least I don't think they do. I've never told them, and they're not on the internet, and they're not anywhere where they can run into me. Now, my cousins, to include my mom's sister and her sister-in-law, are on the internet, and they both know. So do most of my cousins. Now, have they told my parents? I don't know. But my parents aren't super strict. They asked me to go to mass, and I say no, thanks, and I leave it at that. I don't offer anything, and they kind of accept that. So your family's going to be a little bit different. You're going to have to navigate your own way, and I don't know that there's a good way to do it. Depending, you know, I know atheists who have a good relationship with their highly religious parents, but they set boundaries, and there are consequences for crossing those boundaries, like going no contact for a period of time. And I know atheists who just have horrible relationships with their families. So the only thing I can really give you is best of luck, and try to remember what your focus is keeping them in your lives while also establishing boundaries.
Right. And
I appreciate that.
I would ask,
go ahead, sorry.
Like, do you want to maintain a tight relationship with them? Is that your goal?
I completely changed my career into healthcare, and nobody in my family really does that. So I actually moved back to be closer with them so that I could offer that part of what I can be helpful with to them. So it's kind of like I really, and we've had a lot, my family has had a lot of health problems in this coming up this last year. Has been crazy. And so that's one of the main reasons why I moved back. But it's like I pretty much have to, not have to, it is my choice, obviously, but I'm around them and I want to help them in that instance. But it's just with my dad, I pretty much just never talk about it. We just don't go into it. And then some of my other family are definitely more open with it, but it just becomes so heated, and, you know, the same arguments that you guys hear, I'm sure, you know, ad nauseum over and over, it's the same thing. And they will not be convinced in any way. And I've tried, honestly, just to not be disingenuous. I've read many different books on different religions to kind of like maybe get a bridge to even get them, you know, like say, hey, like there's many other gods, but you just believe in this one, like it's like just trying to help, but also I don't, I don't want to force them into anything, I'm just there to help. It's kind of hard topic to stay away from because they love to talk about it, so.
And that's fair. I have a very like right-leaning political family, but I have one aunt who has always been very left-leaning, and I didn't even know about it until I was in my late teens. I had no idea. And it was really interesting. And I asked her when I got older, how come you never talk about politics? Because she clearly was very interested in politics. She worked for the government for a long time. And she's like, I love my family. It's not worth fighting over. And I was like, oh, well, that's fair. Right. And so like, I think you do have to, at some level, ask yourself, like, is your priority to maintain your family relationship? If that's the priority, then you kind of have to sometimes, not talk about a subject that you might want to talk about. However, if like your family is using religion in a dangerous way, that's when you might want to speak up when the conversation comes up and, present facts or evidence or arguments that may or may not be persuasive. So certainly you're not going to persuade your family to think like you, but you can at least have an answer ready for when they come at you with some of these things.
I mean, and it's the craziest thing because what I guess such an ironic statement of common sense. You think that people would understand, but like sometimes arguing with them, it just they will not accept it.
Certainly
and
not.
I don't owe them silence. I just want to be honest. I don't want to worry about like hurting them. Because I want to be there for them, but I guess I'm just trying to share gradually because I want to be honest about myself too.
Well, there's nothing dishonest about not telling them you're an atheist or not having those conversations. Because, I mean, as someone who is obviously on a show as often as I am and looking to do more shows, I would still say that atheism is still 20% of my life, maybe 10%.
Yeah.
And so for me to talk about anything else isn't being dishonest. I don't talk about scuba diving to non-scuba divers. I don't talk about, driving off-road to people who aren't driving off-road all the time. We talk about things that we have common interest in. That's not being disingenuine. That's just being genuine. So there's no dishonesty on your part there, as far as I'm concerned.
Okay. Well, I mean, what you guys have said have been really helpful. Thank you a lot. I mean, I enjoy what you guys are doing, and honestly, it has been very helpful in my journey. Like I said, I was pretty resistant at first, but over the years, as I've traveled and met more people, I've just realized that, there's so much. There's just a better logical and rational way to approach things, and it's been very helpful.
Yeah.
So thank you guys. I appreciate it.
Well, thanks for calling in, Ben. And best of luck to you, and best of luck with your family relationships.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Cheers, friend.
I appreciate it. Yep. Bye.
I think that's such a common problem. There's so many people that live in like a small blue dot, and where they think differently than those around them, and it's difficult to be authentic, but also preserve relationships. That's a hard thing.
It's the hardest thing in the world. Families are rough, especially the more religious families, especially, like the J-dubs are really willing to shun you and cut off all contact. And others that are just as extreme will also do that. So coming out as an atheist, especially for the young folks who are under 18 and can't sign rental agreements, can't work full time because of child labor laws and all that, the hardest thing in the world is just tell them, keep your mouth shut, keep your head down, wait till you're 18. Because that could be just as dangerous as telling them nothing at all, or to do anything else. So yeah, this Christian idea that it's okay to throw your children to the wolves is just horrifyingly bad. And it's not uncommon. And if you read the Bible, I think that you can actually make that case that shunning and ostracizing people is a thing to do.
Yep, sure can. It's absolutely in there. Yeah, yeah.